Thank you so much for joining Dental Marketing Theory, a podcast by Gary Bird. In today's episode, Gary talks with Greg Stanley. Gary and Greg discuss how Whitehall Management can help you retire. As always, please make sure to like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment, as all of those things really help to get the word out about dental marketing theory. Hope you enjoy today's show.
All right, Greg, we are live. Mr. Stanley, so good to have you on today. I'm really, really excited to have you on. Most people don't know this, but I got started in the dental industry many, many years ago. And the first consultant that I ever met and the first person that really had influence in the dental industry was Greg. And he gave me my opportunity to work with several of his clients, and super thankful for that. And I love what he does. And I just love his approach to dentistry, business, life. Very, very, very practical and results driven. And I just absolutely love that. So Greg, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast. Awesome. So one thing that we've been doing is sharing people's journey into dentistry. So what I have found after doing this podcast now for a while is that the dentists all purposely got into dentistry. They decided to go to school and become a dentist. And then everybody else kind of ended up here through different paths. So would you mind sharing with me when you got into dentistry, how you ended up here, and how you ended up where you're at today?
Oh, great. Sure, Gary. I graduated with a degree in accounting from ASU. Started with a few clients, consulting. Honestly, a lot of it was almost accounting based, but they wanted financial consulting too. Mm-hmm. I met up with a fellow named Dennis Munson, who worked for Jim Rohde at some Anodontics, now Smart Practice.
Oh, okay.
And they liked what they saw and had me speak on some of their programs. And pretty soon I had other clients. I met a dentist in Texas by the name of Earl Esteb. He had a newsletter with 5,500 subscribers. He devoted one of his newsletters entirely to Whitehall, and I'd have to say that it's history after that. He got us really launched, and we've enjoyed that. We went along for a long time, and we worked with marketing. We worked on it. We worked with it, and kind of did our best to master the mailing end of it, direct mail. Mm-hmm. In time, there was so much competition because what you do is just right out there for people to see. And it was always the feeling of you're trolling with a bare hook in the ocean, hoping to catch something.
Yeah.
And then you came along, and it was like fishing in a bucket full of giant fish with bait. And we had never had that before. And so we've been big supporters and continue to be, because you're able to call your shots. You tell us that you ask us what we want as far as new patients, and we tell you and we get them. That's and awesome. I tell you, Gary, that has gone on longer than we thought possible. We are thrilled.
That's awesome. I appreciate that.
That's the story.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate that. And I love working with you guys too. So tell me, now you guys, so you started as accounting. How did you morph from working with dentists on the accounting side to doing all the other stuff that you guys are doing now?
Oh, you're in their office, you're writing checks for them, you're doing these things, and pretty soon you're hiring a staff person. And then you're helping them with the marketing. Then you're trying to figure out why patients aren't buying and all of that. And it just kind of grew out of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I know you guys, what year did you get started? What year was that?
1975 is when I graduated.
Awesome. So around 1980, things kind of started to take off. So what, between 1980 and then 1990, and then we're in 2000, 2010, 2020, like walk me through some of the transitions that you've seen and some of the ups and downs.
There was a time, in order to break out, trying to get out of the one-on-one business, because it's great, but it's so limiting. we were sponsored by doctors to come and speak for groups. In other words, they would gather up half a dozen or a dozen doctors, kind of like a study club, and pay us a fee to come out. And so that worked out well enough that we started doing our own marketing, trying to get some momentum. And we mailed to the entire nation for almost a decade, every month.
Wow.
That's how we were able to get that level of penetration, that we had 19% of the profession had attended a seminar.
Wow.
Didn't mean they had consulted, but they came to a seminar. They heard our story. And honestly, Gary, the story, a lot of it at the time was a lot about saving money, getting out of debt, and not falling prey to inflation derangement syndrome, which is just about to take hold again.
Yeah.
The people find themselves feeling like,
because that was in the 80s, right? So in the early the mid 80s.
80 and 81, we had 12 and a half and 13.2% inflation.
Mm-hmm.
And it made people crazy. And so
how were you helping with that? Like, what did you talk with people about
trying
then?
to talk them down. They were willing. Some of it was the brokerage world. It wasn't quite as well regulated as it is today.
Mm-hmm.
Brokers were getting people to really take tremendous risks. And you need to take this incredible risk because inflation is about to become hyperinflation. It never did, but the fear of it, and that fear is rising today.
Yeah.
And it made them think, yes, even if I lose my money trying, at least I tried. And they would lose their money,
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
One of the things that caused the losses with inflation, about that same time, real estate was skyrocketing because of baby boomers entering the market and driving up real estate prices. What people forgot was that in the end, interest rates control real estate. So if interest rates rise enough, I don't care how hot real estate is, it goes cool, it dies. And so we saw that cycle a couple of times. Now we're in it again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because people are young enough, they don't remember. And so.
Yeah. So what if you were, if a dentist, a 30-year-old dentist that maybe doesn't remember what happened before, what could you tell that story a little bit about the inflation, interest rates being raised? Cause I remember interest rates went up really, really high. And then that caused, there's a lot of, after effects from that. Now we're going to go through that again. They have to raise rates. They've made that clear. So we're going to see rates go up. That's going to slow the housing market down. Walk us through some of that and some advice that you would give.
Well, believe it or not, Gary, some inflation seemed to actually work for our clients. Having some inflation, they just were able to manage their lives in such a way as to not be where the inflation was. It wouldn't be, they would have a house, pay it off, and live in it forever. Well, now you're not involved in the real estate market. You're not in the borrowing market. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There was things like that. What would I tell him now? Mm-hmm. That this too will pass. Man, we go through weird stuff. I hadn't lived long enough to experience a pandemic before.
Yep.
This is all new, disastrous and destructive, having unforeseen consequences, and I couldn't have imagined. Mm-hmm. The great walk away where people leave their jobs. But I would tell somebody today to save money and hang on to the money. Don't take on risk that you don't understand. And even then, be careful. I'll give you an example. People know, I found across the board, people know that if you shoot for a higher yield, you take more risk. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
What they don't know is how much risk. In other words, when I go from Oklahoma City municipals paying 3% to Puerto Rico Nursing Home Authority bonds paying 5%, how much more risk did I take Well, you just lost all your money if you been following the news. It only took 2% to attract people into what could only be called a suicidal investment dive. That's usually about the amount. To go from one super safe to absolutely crazy, you don't get much for that. You've heard the saying, crime doesn't pay. Either does taking investment risk. Now, if it's something you know about, you're involved in or whatever, it's not really an investment anymore. That's your practice, for example. But as far as trusting someone else with your money to go out and bring you back a whole bunch more, that hasn't worked out. So I say hang on to your money. And when the inflation boat rises, when interest rates go up enough that municipalities have to pay higher yields, do your homework and find good municipalities that are not what they call donor states, where they literally give out more in entitlements than they bring in tax revenue. There are about a dozen of them that qualify for that. So do your homework, be careful, and when that time comes, you're going to get a chance to get probably 6 or 8% on your money, and it's going to be safe. Here's the crazy part. People will try to dissuade you and say, look, inflation is 12 or 15%. Don't fall for something paying 6 or 8. Well, statistically, you can't sustain 15 or 18%. You're either on the way to hyperinflation or you are not. Just this morning, Gary, I looked at the 10 top countries for inflation. Some of them are in South America, some of them are in Africa, but the inflation rate in one of them is 79 trillion% a year. And that's when it surpasses the value of the paper it's printed on. Are we going that far? I would say no, but I do not doubt that there are voices that would lead us that way. So nobody seems to really know the outcome.
I like what you're saying there too, because I've been told, right? So actually my dad told me one time, he was like, if you get this much money and you put it in a bond, then you could get this much of a yield over this time period. Well, ever since I've been in the working force, that's never been available, right? So I'm always looking at it going, when is that going to happen? So that makes total sense of what you're saying there, because they have to start raising interest rates eventually. They've already signaled that. So that's going to come, and then you strike while the iron's hot. And I totally get what you're saying too with inflation. Like if we go into hyperinflation, like what you just described, then no one knows what's going to happen, right? Like what happens to America or other countries, because we're not the only country doing this. If that happens, and there's really no plan that you can really outline to recover from that, but we do know that we've been here before, and that there is a road back down, and we're hoping and planning that that's the road that we're going to follow. So I really, really like that. So changing gears on you just a little bit, what is the number one rule that you use when you're working with an office? And I know you guys work with tons of offices. What's the number one rule that you use with an office in making sure that they become successful?
Okay, good question. We analyze from 3 standpoints, Gary. We look at the statistics of the practice, because they tell a story. We talk to the staff, they tell a story. We talk to the doctor, who has his or her own perceptions. And as we compare these, one of them typically is out of sync. For example, a doctor tells us, oh, I'm doing that, but yet we talk to staff and they're not doing something. We look at the statistics, and they've had one referral in 4 months that is referred by another patient. And the doctor says, no, everybody refers me. I talk to my patients. They tell me everybody refers me. Yeah, but they're not making it through the door. So that's where we start. We look at everything. And I'll tell you what we typically find. The doctor is so busy treating patients. Staff, typically we're understaffed. Nowadays, it's across the board we're understaffed, Gary.
Yeah. Yep.
They don't have time to look up and see why they're not doing better. They're buried. They're head down, buried in work. And when we look at it, yeah, they're understaffed. And understaffed, you talk about the law of unintended consequences. An understaffed office by one person can lead to us making 4 pages of small print, handwritten notes on the things that are breaking down in the office.
Wow.
One underserved position affects everybody.
Yeah.
Pretty soon, staff aren't being checked out in a way that will make them reschedule. They're not paying when they're supposed to. They're not being reached out to on the phone when one of your phone calls comes in, Gary, from
Yeah.
your marketing. In other words, understaffed is another word for slow death.
Yeah, I know
And we
that's
see a
true.
lot of that.
Yeah, I see a ton of it too. This even on the marketing side, like 30, the average right now nationwide is, and I've confirmed this not only in our numbers but other companies, different kinds of companies that track phone. Average unanswered phone call rate is in the mid 30s. So that means 35%, 33%, somewhere in there, are not answering the phone, which is just like, that's a third. It's a third. So it's really hard to be successful behind that, even if you have the best operations. So I love that. And I love how you figure out how to get alignment between the basically the CEO, which is the dentist, who's also acting as the dentist. You're also getting alignment with the team. And then you guys are coming with the patient as well, and then trying to figure out where that truth is, what the actual reality is, because no one person, I don't think, has the whole truth by themselves. Now, what's some of the so you sit down, you meet with those 3 people, you start to jot down, okay, this is what is going wrong. You have pages of notes. How do you then pull that all together and then make a plan out of that? Because obviously people can sit down and spot holes, but then how do you actually solve that?
Well, we put together a plan with a sequence. And we kind of have a saying here at Whitehall, don't get ahead of the money. And for example, if you're short of space a little bit, the first thing to do is not to go out and incur $2 million in debt for a bigger office. There's other things you can do to ramp up your bottom line. So you see what I'm getting at, Gary?
Yeah.
So our guide isn't just step 1, step 2, here's how to build a practice. It's how to do it without losing control of your budget.
Yeah, because a lot of times the simplest answer, like you said, just add more space, might not be the most impactful. From,
I would say, Gary, 90% of the people we work with, if they had one more operatory, would produce more. 10 or 20% right off the top, right off the get-go, they would go up. But like I said, how do you add one operatory? It's like you have 6 kids and give one of them a new car. You can't do that.
Yeah. So okay. So then what like metrics do you can then start to lay out? So you say, okay, well, this is where we can have the best impact without putting you into debt. And then here's how we're going to measure it. Do you guys get into like the KPIs with them and say, this is what you guys need to start watching, or what are the next steps from there to actually solving their problem?
Good question. Gosh, you've obviously been around dentistry. In the medical profession, Gary, from our contacts there, a sad thing happened. All the low-hanging fruit got picked. They got faster, shorter in their encounters with patients. They hired physician's assistants. They did all these things. And finally, it just ate them up. It sucked them in, made them employees, and they went away. Dentistry still has a lot of fruit on the vine. Let me give you an example. Most of them have staff of 2 varieties, or just one. If they're unfortunate, it's just this one kind of clock punching, do a good job, put in a day's work. We really can't complain bitterly. And the other kind of office has a lot of those, and maybe 1 or 2 outstanding people. Only thing they do, anything they touch, they want it to reflect their own individuality, their own commitment to excellence. And that helps the doctor see what's possible. But normally they tend to conclude there's only one person that could do that in my whole city, and she's working for me.
Yeah.
We have found that through carefully crafted incentive programs, through a management structure within the team. In other words, they're the management. We put them in the right hierarchy. A practice that was doing 100,000 that seemed full, hopelessly overbooked. In other words, they ain't going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They get those things right. All of a sudden, they're doing 140, and it seems like they're only busy 80% of the time. In other words, there's just so much waste. There's so much inefficiency in dentistry. When you tighten it up, a lot of them say, I don't need marketing. I'm full. Are you making any money? No. Well, then, and a lot of them are afraid of marketing patients.
Yeah.
I'm telling you this. I'm preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
They're afraid of a patient coming in, not bringing a plate of cookies and asking them about their grandchildren. They're so used to being coddled by their own patients. They're afraid of some price shopper coming in and holding their feet to the fire in some unpleasant way. And until we get the staff right and get everything right, it's very hard for them to believe that that's actually a good thing to have a bunch of new people come in. We can get the system ready to convert those people into cookie bakers,
Yeah, 100%. I just met with a place today. They had a handful or two locations, all very, smaller offices. And they don't really have any marketing in place. They've just kind of done it by word of mouth, but now they need to grow, and they hit all the problems you just hit. So number one, they don't have hygienists. The hygienists don't want to, no matter what they offer or what they pay, they can't get the people to come in to work with them. That's number one. But then number two, they want to grow. And one of the things that I told them right away is like, look, your infrastructure to get patients in has been referral based, which is great, high trust patients. If we start driving in low trust patients without somebody there helping you build the infrastructure to get those people in, which we don't do, then you're not going to be successful with those patients because they're different. They have questions, they have concerns, they have wants and desires, and really
the whole mistrust.
They have mistrust. Yeah. So it's high trust versus low trust is really what it boils down to. But it's, every dentist I've ever worked with is a shopper. Every single one of them. It's so funny, right? So they don't want the shopper patient, but they're a shopper every single time that I've worked with. So I get it. Like I understand that, but this actually leads into one of the next questions I wanted to talk to you about was consumerism. So I know for a long time dentistry fought consumerism, and it was like almost like this bad word. And then there was a lot of legislation that protected dentistry for a long time, which most of that has been, or a lot of that has been removed. What are your thoughts on that, of where we stand currently?
Well, there was a time when there was just a thread of arrogance running through dentistry. And it's kind of sad because a lot of specialists kind of have held on to it. They still, they sit around with other dentists, sending them people, and they live the good life and send them a gift basket at the end of the year and all's good. Well, when I first started, there was a handful of leaders in dentistry. They were practitioners. They were the consultants. And they told people not to discount, not to do this, not to do that. And, it made perfect sense in a market that was a provider's market, meaning there was too many patients looking for too few dentists. You could do all kinds of things. In fact, Gary, out on the Texas plains, I found an office that was in a reasonably good-sized town that was 50 miles between dentists. And the things they put patients through made me cringe.
Man. Yeah.
And they were thinking they should do more. They only took cases that were $30,000. They just sent everybody else away. It was a different life. In other words, when that dynamic changes, and once it becomes competition, and I want to give you the metric on that. Typically, it's about one doctor, one general dentist, to 1,250 prospective patients in an area. When it gets thinner than that, life's tough. It becomes a bar fight with the lights out. When it becomes more than that, you can
So
have
what,
your kids
give me,
design your marketing and it works.
so I people hear those numbers, right? And it's really hard to build that like picture in your brain because we don't know the numbers. So give me a city that's like below that. Like give me an example of a
Let me
city.
give you
So
an example.
yeah.
I had a doctor in Wyoming where there's more antelope than people. And this guy had 4,000 prospective patients for one dentist.
Mm.
He charged what he wanted. He didn't market. He did all these things. He did so many things that really were offensive, but it worked because people had to put up with it.
Yeah.
People had to drive 50 or 100 miles to see him, and he literally let that go to his head. He was thinking, I'm just doing things right. I'm just one of those people.
Mm.
I just kind of got this thing.
He had
I
good
got it.
ratios.
And a couple of dentists moved to town. All of a sudden, it's not quite so easy. Let me give you another example. Doctor in Denver. Denver's a big place.
Yeah.
It was one of the little subgroups of Denver. He had 200 prospective patients per dentist. It was vicious. I had two other clients there that were just fighting for their very lives. He, on the other hand, was getting 200 new patients a month. Yes, he was spending a big chunk on marketing, but he was doing something I haven't found anybody else willing to do. He stayed open until 9 at night.
Yep.
And if you were to do that right now, stay open until 9, you wouldn't be flooded overnight. You probably would pick up. But he had made it into 2 shifts, 7 in the morning till 1 or something, and then on till 9. He took the morning shift. He took the evening shift. And somebody always asked where he found staff for the evening shift. He said, "Are you kidding? In a bar." I thought it was good.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
That is a good one.
I caught you. So
he
found what the consumer wanted, right? Like he
Yeah,
went.
they wanted a chance to go down there late, and
Yeah.
so he did something. Now I'll tell you honestly, he was a child of a dentist who taught him that. His father worked long hours like that, and so that wasn't foreign to him. And he just took it to the bank right under the noses of just dogfight competition.
Yeah. One of the that's a great insight. I love these topics. So, and another changing gears on your topic, something that I learned from you is that in dentistry, and I'm going to put a marketing spin on it. In dentistry, you have certain treatments that are like win now, right? So they're high ROI, like right away. Implants, Invisalign, things like that, where you get a big kick in revenue, but then there's not a lot that comes behind it. Then there's the non-sexy part of dentistry, which is not huge ROI. It's actually small, but you can build predictable models on it. Could you explain your mindset on that? How to create a predictable practice that actually does good long term, and how you guys help practices with that?
Gary, you just said Wes. Did you want Wes or me?
Oh, you. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have, it's so tempting once you have a big case to want nothing but big cases.
Yeah.
It becomes very hard, though, to fill your schedule with these wonderful cases. The natural way to do it is with big implant cases, supported implants, supported dentures. The problem, of course, is they're a commodity. People shop them, and it becomes its own dogfight.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about the predictable things? Crown and bridge, molar endo, these things, it's like, in a way, nobody wants them. New dentists don't want to learn molar endo, but I can tell you, it's put tons of kids through school. It's funded retirements and bought houses. Yeah, maybe not the coolest thing, but absolutely a great way to max out, to do good. I know doctors that can fill their schedule with good cases. Now, there's a factor of small cases. And let me tell you a story about somebody, if I could. Dr. Roy Smith, really an inspiration to me and to many dentists. His staff tried to get him to quit letting people call in with single surface fillings or extraction only. I want to get a tooth pulled. And Roy Smith had fought that for years. Finally, he was so busy, he let them do it. He let them cancel anybody that was calling in for an extraction. His income, Gary, fell by like $50,000 a month.
No.
Because he was able to turn those people into crown and bridge patients. It was a gift he had. And so people that would come in for an extraction, he could sell them on something better without making them feel pushed or overwhelmed.
Now,
and so the better you are at, I know the word is upsell.
Yeah.
Patients probably don't like that word, but they certainly like the outcome. They like to have better dentistry.
Yep.
The better you can do that without driving people away from you, you can make a real good living serving that slice of the market.
Yeah. And
Can I add to?
Oh, yeah, go for it. No, add to it, please.
Well, a lot of people, like I said, they have that one or two big cases show up and make their month. It's just like all of a sudden, it was $100,000 more than their last month, and they just think, I'm doing this. I'm going for this. Then they find it's hard to find those again or to predictably create them. There's a whole strategy that goes with creating those people. Let me tell you another story I saw on the airline magazine. I'm sure you've seen it. The magazine where it has the guys playing the piano, the dentist, you know.
Yeah.
Those guys spend $1 million a year on marketing, and that's how they stay full. And how many people are able to get to that level? And then they do all this great dentistry.
Well, and they don't realize, because we work with some pretty big DSOs that do all supported dental implants. Most people don't realize that you're going to pay cost per person walking through your door can get into the thousands, and just to get that person in the door, they haven't even said yes yet, right? So because it is a dogfight, and I think the other thing that most people don't understand is that you're dealing with short cycle versus long cycle, and those are two totally different things. So it's like selling a pizza versus selling a house. So when I want pizza right now. I don't want to wait. And I want, it should be frictionless, right? Like I should hop on my phone, type in the word pizza. There should be 2 or 3 options. I'm going to click one of them. I'm going to call, I'm going to ask 2 or 3 questions, and then boom, a pizza is going to be at my house in 30 seconds. That is most of the other kind of dentistry that you just described, the hygiene, the dental emergencies, the extractions, those kind of things. That's all those short cycle buying patients, and it's instant. And again, it's harder to mess up. When you get into longer buying cycles, like a house or like dental implants or anything like that, now I don't have to buy from you right now. Now I've been thinking about it for a year, or thinking about it for 2 years, or waiting for this big event, and I'm going to get it done before that big event. There's all these other factors that come into it that really start to sway people in their decision-making process that you're not privy to, because they're doing a lot of it before they even come into your office, where they're calling, they're asking questions, their dental IQ goes through the roof because they're watching videos. So it couldn't be further apart from a marketing strategy. It couldn't be further apart from an operational strategy, and it couldn't be further apart from a clinical side of things. So the other thing I wanted you to touch on inside of that too, that kind of glues all that together to make this model work, is the hygiene side of it. How do you help practices understand how hygiene makes this all predictable and recurring?
Well, hygiene is the secret to everything, but it's got its own special challenges. For example, a hygienist is a 4-year graduate of hygiene training, has a license, and she's sharp. When we would have meetings with tests, hygienists always got the best scores. These are sharp people. They want to set their own course. They want to have their own culture in the office. That creates a challenge. So the doctor figures this out. The doctor comes to the conclusion, more people I get in the hygiene, the more dentistry I get, which is fine until they run afoul the hygienist who says, nah, you get people in hygiene, I'm going to sell them all deep cleanings. I'm going to sell them all night guards. I'm going to sell them all this stuff, and because they need it. And you can't get them on the team, so to speak. So hygiene is a special challenge because a lot of dentists, especially today, my gosh,
Yeah.
they can't even get a hygienist. They can't even get a
Yep.
bad one.
Yeah.
If she came in today and threw boiling water on patients, he wouldn't fire her.
For the first time, I've talked to a couple people who've said this, that they said right now today, I have doctors that I wouldn't be, if I lost a doctor, I wouldn't be as panicked. But if I lost a hygienist, I'd be really worried because we're running thin.
I just talked to a doctor earlier today that because of all of this has been pulled himself into cleaning teeth, and it's killing him. He knows he's going to lose these people if he doesn't get them a cleaning, but he can't get anybody to come in and do it for money.
Has the dental industry ever been in this place before where we had a shortage of hygienists like this?
Yeah. When I started, there was a run-up in hygiene costs. In other words, the cost per hour. It went all the way up to about $50 an hour, came all the way down in about 15 to 20 years, came down to $15 to $18 an hour. And I talked to the hygienists. They were all glad to get it. That was the market. And then it crept back up, and it tends to average around 30, 35. Today, as of right now, it's in the 50s, Gary.
I just talked to somebody today that said they're paying the temp $60 an hour, and then they give a $100 bonus on top of it if they show up that day through the temp agencies. So, in fact, you're actually incentivized as a hygienist. If I was a hygienist right now and I took all things out aside, I would do temp agencies because some of the temp agencies are now offering insurance on top of that. And I would just pick my hours and I'd get the bonus for the same day thing on the days I wanted to work. And why wouldn't you choose that?
You know, it tells me, the message to me is I should go to hygiene school.
So what's the solve? Like, what solved it before? What brought the price of it back down? Just people jumping, the pay got so high.
Programs open up around the country, sometimes sponsored by a group of dentists in the area. But you get enough hygiene programs producing hygienists, you might lobby your state to let people get a 2-year hygiene degree or something. Things like that.
Awesome. What is your what's your dream client? What does your dream client look like that you guys work with, and what is the dream outcome from that?
That's a good question. Let me give you a continuum, if I could.
Yeah.
This might ring familiar to you. We have doctors who will not call us, and I'll tell you why. They've tried things before and have concluded either it didn't work, or worse, they concluded they weren't capable of changing. Next, people that joined a program of some sort and they made a few changes, but it didn't work because they wouldn't drink the Kool-Aid. Okay? All the way out to people that are ready to really buy in and do what has been proven to work. See, that's our client. That's our avatar. Gary, so many people have tried things, and it's almost immediately, tell me if I'm wrong on this, becomes an arm wrestling match. They want to fail while you're trying to make them succeed. And it isn't that they want to fail and go broke. They want to fail and be who they used to be. But back when they met you, they want to stay the same. They want to prove themselves right that they really couldn't change or couldn't grow.
Yeah.
And so you give me somebody who says, hey, I saw one of your clients. That guy was an absolute write-off loser, and now he's outproduced me by 3-fold. If he can do it, I can do it. Bring the change. I'm ready. That's my guy.
Yeah, you got to want the change, and you're 100% right. I think one of the biggest things I can speak to in the dental industry as far as marketing goes is that the reason that dental marketing so far behind the curve of other industries, I know you've seen other industries and what they do with marketing and how efficient they are, is because you've had a lot of people who've designed it this way, right? They've asked for it. They said, this is what I want. These are the KPIs I want to measure. And so I think it's really important for people to understand when you ask for certain things from marketing people or from consultants, they're going to cater around your needs and your wants, what they're asking for, because they don't want to wrestle with you. They don't want to fight with you. So one of the things that we've done, because I want people to be successful, I know you do too, is like, okay, well, in marketing, we're just going to make it simple. We're going to judge us based off of cost per lead. and then we'll go from there, right? We're going to judge us based on how many opportunities we're creating, and that makes it really easy because you remove a lot of the barriers of, well, why aren't you using this site, or why don't you do more of this or less of this? And marketing's so complex now. It's like, it would be like me doing my own dentistry. If you jump in and try to do marketing now, it would be just like if I was in pain and I took some instruments and I just said, I'm going to watch a YouTube video and try to monkey with it. So I totally agree with you on that. And I feel like we're moving in the right direction because people are getting a better understanding. People are getting more acclimated to the different opportunities. But yeah, I'm right with you. So what are, this has been really, really good. I have Taylor on the back end here. She helps me with the podcast, and she's literally going, this is great content. I think there's a lot of people who just don't understand that dentistry's been here before. We've gone through this before. We've had the inflation before. And so this has been really, really eye-opening to me, and I know it's going to help other people as well. Is there anything that I forgot to ask you about that you feel that people should know about?
Well, there's one thing I would like to tell people is that we are in a new era. See, Gary, a lot of our message goes to doctors that are slowing down, approaching retirement, they're getting an associate, and it kind of makes them realize that they probably got to get some new patients. They probably got to market. A lot of people don't realize we're in a new era of marketing. Oh, yeah, they've heard about something about social media or something like that, but they don't realize that it's like watching the Gulf War where we introduced smart bombs that could go through windows.
Yeah.
Your marketing literally can go through windows. Your geo-fenced marketing can bring us the people we want, not just people. That's where a lot of people just wrote marketing. I tried that. Brought in a bunch of people that were crazy or whatever, it's a new era.
Yeah.
And, I find so few people understand that. So that's what I would say that I didn't say. Boom.
I appreciate it. How can people find you if someone says, you know what, I want to learn more about how to help my practice this way, and I want to talk to you guys? What's the best way to reach out to Whitehall?
Call us at 480 828. No, I don't know them. I hope you can re-record this.
Yeah. No worries.
Why don't you just record it for me, Gary?
Okay, cool. We'll tag your information here in the down below.
I don't call myself as much as I used to.
That's okay. That's awesome. So, you did a great job today. I really appreciate you being on. Great job. Can't wait to share this with everybody.
Thanks, Gary.